there's treasure chests of lessons and blessings and self-discovery on the other end of each of these heavy emotions that we learn that we're taught to avoid.
Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview space holders from all over the world. My name is Karolina, and I am your host, and I'm also the connection catalyst. I help spiritual entrepreneurs experience deeper connection with themselves, with others, and with the universe. Today on the show, we have Charles Clay, a beautiful healer and also an inner peace coach. Welcome to the show, Charles. How are you doing?
So good. Happy Monday. It's a pleasure to be here, and I love your energy. I love Soul Fam. So this just felt super aligned, and happy to dive deep.
Oh my God, I'm super glad that you are here with me today. I'm so curious about your journey and about all the methods that you've created. I know there is a lot of them, and I know you've gone through a lot in your life as well to get where you're at, really.
Mhm.
And I know that you have created the beautiful processes and methods that you've been using on yourself. And so you probably have been talking about it a lot on the podcast, but I would still love to touch upon these. But first, I would like to ask, how did your whole healing journey started? How did your spiritual evolution started as well? Because I know that it's not only about self-development for you, it's also about the soul, the intuition. And I know that everyone has their unique story to really, where it has all started. And so I'm super curious, and maybe even briefly, where did your spiritual journey start? And how did you get to do what you're doing right now?
Yes, great question, especially out of the gates. I feel like as souls, we come into this human form to learn, and love is the lesson. And so we get all these curveballs thrown at us from life. We can call them challenges, we can call them struggles, we can call them being stuck, but I have a firm belief that it's all happening for us, and the universe is always giving us signs and signals, and even the intelligence in our body is always sharing with us, almost like a little. It'll start as like a feather. Hey, you might want to realign to your purpose while you're here, and take action in this direction, as opposed to getting further from that purpose. And so if we don't pay attention to the feather, then it's like getting hit, with a brick in the head
And then you get a
sometimes.
slap in your
Yeah.
face.
And that might be, the form of like overindulgence, and then wake up hungover one day, that kind of brick in the head, to make some changes. And it's all happening for us. And, if we don't pay attention to that, oftentimes for me, Charles 1.0, I was felt the brick in the head and was like, okay, I need to make some changes. But as human nature, it's easier said than done to initiate change, right? We can we can resist change, which is really painful. We can accept it, which is going with the flow of as things change, as with nature, and we can also create it. And so, trying to go from this extreme, okay, this is what's not working in my life. Thanks for the messages, the pain, and that can put me on a trajectory to make some changes in my life. And I would usually go to the extreme back then of, I'm going to be super clean, cut out sugar for a year, stop drinking all the things. And, it'd last about a month or so. And then I'd fall back into some old patterns. And so that became really frustrating. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. And so because I didn't make those necessary changes, as a personal trainer at the time, health coach, and then going out on the weekends to overindulge in sex, drugs, rock and roll, parties, all the things, to actually avoid feeling heavy emotions and some of the deep rooted blocks that I was facing, were those were coping mechanisms that I developed. So it wasn't until about 2008, I had some awakening before that, but this was really what cracked me open and allowed me to see, what type of gifts wanted to be revealed and help me align with my purpose again. And that was, we call it like the feathers. You don't listen to that. The bricks, and it's like getting hit by like a Mack truck. And so for me, that was in 2008 up in Mammoth Mountain. I was up there with a couple buddies during a full-on blizzard. Like, it was snow coming from every which way. It was a complete whiteout, and it was so dangerous up there that the ski lift stopped the lift. Like, we were already at the top, and they weren't letting anybody else up. And so we're like, hey, we look at each other, and you barely even see like a tree 5 feet in front of you. It's just a blur. We're like, well, stay low and be ready for anything, and let's charge. And so we were having fun in this white abyss, just flying down the mountain. About halfway down, I all of a sudden went off a jump that I didn't know was there. And I found myself in midair. I felt like I just went off a cliff. And I had no idea which way was up or down. And I tensed up and freaked out, smashed right on my back. And it felt like a lightning bolt just hit me. It was the most intense physical pain I'd ever experienced to that point. And I yelled to my friends, hoping that they could hear me and like could get some help. They had already gone in front of me and couldn't hear anything through the wide abyss. My phone, I looked at my phone, it's dead. So here I am stuck on this mountain in like a level 11 out of a 10 scale of pain. And it's in those moments that you really find out what you're made of. I had to channel my inner Spartan warrior just to click my board off and sit on it and slide down as far as I could, and then like keel over, take some breaths into the pain, and then eventually made it down the mountain. And then I had to go see these doctors and receive the bad news. They were showing me x-rays and MRIs I'd taken of how jacked up my spine was from this accident. And they told me that I would need surgery ASAP, maybe multiple surgeries, or I might never move the same again. And in that moment, even in a state of fight or flight, I tuned in and was able to access my intuition and knew that that was not the path for me. I'm sure they do a great job, but I didn't want to give my power over to going under the knife. And so I made a deal with myself to find ways of healing naturally. And this took me on quite the soul journey to having to finally sit in the muck of all those uncomfortable feelings that I was trying to run from, that I was going to the fridge to stuff, or going on Netflix to try to escape, or getting caught in scroll holes on Facebook and Instagram to try to distract myself from grief, from heartache, from fear of not knowing if I would move the same again, from shame of, man, I'm in such bad shape, I can't even get up, let alone go to work. I can't even stand up straight. I was like crawling to the bathroom at the time. I was in so much pain. And so I just let the tears fall. And I had this huge revelation. It was just like letting all that weight drop. I call it 3D debris. It's just like issues in our tissues that we hold on every time we're trying to stuff it or escape from it, resist it. Finally let a big load of that release, and just felt this deep clarity. And in that, I was able to set the intention and drop into a meditation to allowing for the answers to come to healing naturally. And during that meditation, a friend I hadn't talked to in over 2 years texted me during the meditation and said, hey, I heard your back's really messed up. Check out Neurokinetic therapy, the work of David Weinstock. And so this took me down this rabbit hole, and I got to connect so many dots with my background in kinesiology and understanding how everything's all interconnected. And so I went and got connected with his top student in San Diego, got my first session, and I walked in there looking like, Shakira stuck in a mid-hip dance move. Like, my hips were to the left, my upper body's to the right. I'm like a wreck and in so much pain. And it's fun to laugh about now because I know the gifts that came from it. But in the time, it was like felt like I'd tried everything. And this was like a last resort other than, going into surgery. And so I just trusted, and I got on the table and discovered some really profound things. I mean, we can go into detail as much as we want on that, but basically I got off the table and went from like Shakira hip move out of alignment to feeling aligned again and 90% better in one session. And
Wow.
that was showing me, my body was showing me how out of alignment I was with my purpose at that time. And so just, I felt this epiphany. It was like, wow, this works. I need to learn this. I need to share this. This is my path. And so it was this just like understanding of like, wow, all that was happening for me. And so then we can begin to look, even as listeners here, just think about all your biggest challenges, all your biggest struggles are all there to reveal these amazing gifts and deeper self discovery of who we really are and what we came here to share, and tap into that medicine and get to make an impact in others' lives. And so this put me on a trajectory of studying under David Weinstock, taking all of his courses, becoming a neurokinetic therapist, and helping people resolve their back pain, neck pain, shoulder issues, knee issues, and help them avoid surgery and remember that they're their own greatest healer as well. And so I got to help hundreds and hundreds of people that were in the same scenario as me learn the easy way from my mistakes, and how that's what's beautiful about coaches and healers, can help you avoid some of the landmines on your journey, on your hero's journey to self-discovery and fulfillment. And so I learned so much through that and got to develop my practice. That was back in San Diego at the time. And then I started seeing a lot of common denominators. And this was, a lot of men showing up, and we would address and clear the physiological issues. Like I would show them through muscle testing how to get answers from their body and notice where there is compensation patterns, meaning certain muscle groups aren't firing properly. And then other muscle groups in the body are taking over, compensating for that. This results in pain. Pain's the check engine light, which is happening for us to share that something needs to change, right? And so it's really interesting how most of us are really good about when our car has a check engine light comes on, we're like, uh-oh, I better, go get it serviced. And we take care of that and change it, right? But when it comes to our bodies, pain is this check engine light. It's this important, intelligent information from our bodies trying to share with us that something needs to change. And yet we oftentimes just try to block it out, or, with all the coping mechanisms that the mind provides, instead of resolving it from the source. And so that's become my work, is diving into the source. And that involved diving deep with the metaphysics, and not only the physiology, but also the emotional components in regards to pain. And so this allowed for a lot of people to heal from the source of their wounds. And I developed the inner peace process through that because it's so effective. And it's just a beautiful way to uncover the internal blocks that have been holding us back or keeping us stuck and creating pain. And it's all interconnected. And so as we resolve that for ourselves, learn the lessons and blessings, then that helps us and gives us more to share with others on our hero's journey and help others on theirs. And it gets really exciting because that's the path of highest excitement and fulfillment that leads to new opportunities and just a lot of dreams coming true. It gets to be really fun.
Oh my God, this is such a beautiful and inspiring story. And I can really relate to that because I feel like it's pretty much always where our biggest, let's say, trauma and biggest pain is our biggest gift as well. And even for me, I've been healing my digestive system because of the childhood wound of being abandoned. And this journey of healing myself brought me to so much understanding about how human body works, so much understanding about how to work with emotions and how to help my clients as well, way more than if I didn't go through this all by myself, right? Because you need to heal yourself to know how to help others heal. You're probably not going to be
Yes.
as effective as a healer or as a coach if you haven't gone through any shit yourself, right? And
Yep.
it's just really inspiring, and it reminds me of the a story that also Ricky told me, that my best friend that I told you about before, because I mentioned to you that he's a business genius, but he wasn't a business person at all. But once he had an accident. He was actually studying accounting, but he had an accident where he broke his knee, hardcore, and then he spent months just being in bed because he couldn't even walk that much, right? And in this time he was taking all these marketing and business courses and actually reshaped his whole life from that point. And someone could say, oh my god, this is a bad accident, it's like horrible, he couldn't walk, whatever. But this very event shaped his whole career, his whole life up to this point, right? And it's the same kind of story. Like this accident, this like negative thing that happens to us is actually the biggest gift that can help us realize what's important in life, what's our mission in here. Maybe it needs to sometimes shake us, right? To
Yeah,
see, oh my God, maybe I've been doing something misaligned in my life. And it kind of can put us back on track to what's actually on our soul's purpose, our soul's journey in this life. So thank you for sharing this beautiful story. It is really, really inspiring. And yeah, I just feel like it resonates with me so much because I can see that
mhm,
every single negative situation, every single one in our life is actually a gift for us to heal, to expand, and to grow. And this is only for our good, right? For our highest good and for our
absolutely.
soul's evolution. So, yeah, I just really resonate with everything you said. And so, could you please tell us a little bit about this inner peace process so that people know
Mhm.
how it works and maybe how to go through it if you are happy to share?
Absolutely. So, let's take the example of your abandonment wound. I can relate to that. That's an initiation that I had to move through, and that helped me develop this inner peace process. And so that's one of the gifts that came from it. And now I have the honor of helping other people through work through the abandonment wound and discover their gifts in it. So it can look like this. It's like I would I went to college and graduated in 2001 from Washington State. And during my college experience, I met the love of my life, right? At the time, I thought, like, wow, this woman is it. We are so great together, and had spent some amazing memories and had such a cherished time. And she ended up leaving me under certain circumstances. There was a lot involved, but so I had to grieve that process, and I wasn't taught any tools about how to grieve. I was taught, man, I'm a man. I need to be strong and not show weakness, right? These are the things like guys can't cry, this kind of stuff that we grew up believing. And so that was left unprocessed. And and then again, fast forward, on my 30th birthday, I met the next love of my life. And what a birthday gift, right? And so then it wasn't long before she ended up leaving me again. So this pattern started showing up, and I knew that I had to take responsibility and go inward and discover, like, why is this happening, to resolve it so that this pattern doesn't need to continue perpetuating. And so that involved me first feeling, noticing, like, wow, what's showing up in my body when I think about this loss of this person I love just left me. And so it was this deep feeling of grief, of, like, I just lost the most amazing woman that I love, right? So that showed up in my gut, second chakra, right? And so that's our emotional center, that's our creative womb, that's also our sexual energy center. And so that was noticing that constrictive feeling there and taking that flavor of grief, like, when have I felt this before? And so that took me back to uh, a memory of when I was 4 years old, and my mom and my dad got divorced, and she knelt down with her leather coat on. I can still smell the leather. She had a red lipstick on. I can still remember the color. So vivid in this detail. One of the first memories of my mom telling me that she was leaving and that I didn't know when I would see her again. And so for a 4 year old to experience that was just overwhelming, and too much to process. And so that kept showing up. That was unprocessed grief that kept getting poked in all my relationships, to take me back to the source of that, to resolve it for myself. But until we have the tools to do that, it can be really difficult. And so Then I had the opportunity through this inner peace process to reparent my 4-year-old and to be there for him through that, which was is, at first he was like so pissed at me. He was like arms crossed, didn't want anything to do with me. And rightfully so. I had abandoned him in a way too. And so I just kept checking in on him with this process. And little by little, he began to open up with me. And I would ask him what he needed. And, and there was some anger there. And he wanted to just break stuff. He he was pissed, right? Like, and rightfully so. And so I honored that. And, we got to break some stuff. And I took him through this whole process and allowed him to express that. And we shared some tears and I got to hug it out with him. And then we got to this beautiful place where when I would check in on him, he was like excited to show me, what he created on this big art table we used to have at that house. And so that was representative of now how inspired I was to create new programs that could help a lot of people and in my coaching business. And so this reparenting process was really beautiful in a way of bringing love, support, and safety back to the parts of me that needed it most. And that I got to be there and provide that for myself, knowing that I'm my own greatest healer. And so this was profound. That entire process was, it was a game changer, because then what happens is my inner belly, I could literally witness and feel as this energy of grief was finally metabolizing in my system. And this frees up new energy. And so, boom, before I knew it, I got super clear on where I could take responsibility in those past relationships for areas that I was showing up super immature, that I was unconsciously pushing my lovers away to recreate the story of abandonment because I was used to that and familiar with it, which is what the ego tries to stick with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Familiarity and knowing it's painful, but we can survive there, right? And so knowing that, and my soul in this body is like, we're not here to survive, we're here to thrive. So let's team up with the ego and allow him to be, a tour guide in some of this earthing that we're doing, and then allow ourselves to expand. And so literally after resolving that for myself, I took space from dating and got super clear on what it is I want in my partner and my queen. And as soon as I got clear on that, it's like that clarity equals confidence, and that confidence equals like fast manifestations. And so I was able, from a heart space, these are the greatest magnets on the planet, and I was able to connect with her energetically in some of my powerful visualization practices. And I have, a whole bunch of codes on calling in your soulmate, that my beloved and I share. And that literally, she showed up. And if I hadn't resolved that for myself, it would have been the same result. I would continue pushing away with the subconscious, immature actions that weren't aligned with my heart's desires. And instead, I was able to dive into that and reach new levels of intimacy that I'd never experienced before. I was able to dive into a relationship where I didn't have like any skeletons in the closet, like no secrets to hide, or, I'd released the shame and got to like fully be in it and just experience the rewards of that, and the next level, each level of commitment, to becoming married, and what that looks like for us, as opposed to what society has created for that is so beautiful. The ceremony and getting to grieve, that the two of us and all the experiences we had, and then having a ceremony around that as we're bringing in a child into this world, and now there's 3. And so it's just been this beautiful blessing on the other end of these dreams just come true so fast when we're able to do this inner work and we have the tools. And so it's really exciting now to be in a place where, I get to share this is my dharma, and get to help people with this inner peace process, give them tools that they can use for the rest of their life. And it's, in a practical sense, this is how easy it is. It's like every time we get triggered, anger, someone cuts you off on the road and it's enough to like create that fire, that rage, or you're watching a movie and something, sparks these feelings that we've tried to resist. Every time we try to resist them, it's just persisting, right? And gets stuck in our issues as tissues, shows up as pain, tightness. The body will give you tons of messages pointing to what gets to be resolved. And in doing that, taking them through this process, I offer them a take home version of it. So now, every time those triggers come, every time the nervous system takes a hit, we can actually have tools, can choose to take it through this process step by step, go to the source of where it came from, bring the love, support, and safety there, and watch as that energy metabolizes in our system. Or we can continue choosing the plethora of band-aids that the mind offers. Just get on Instagram and go for another hour-long scroll hole and see what you can find for dopamine there, or Netflix, or some people it's doing. I just got to get back to work. I don't have time to feel this. And so there's treasure chests of lessons and blessings and self-discovery on the other end of each of these heavy emotions that we learned, that we were taught to avoid, or that it's not okay to express. And yeah, every single one of them, I've gained so much knowledge and understanding of myself, and being able to share those with others. I mean, even loneliness, and anger. I've become such a great relationship with my anger and appreciate it now, and am able to alchemize it in beautiful ways, instead of projecting it on my loved ones unconsciously, because that's what happens when we try to hold back. I'm taught like this is unacceptable in society, and so we just hold on to this anger, and it's like a volcano that just ends up spilling out in ways usually at our loved ones. We become short with them, we're less present, we're snappy, we're impatient, and it leads to arguments. And it's like it'll start with something really small, but it's because there's deeper underlying roots that need to be addressed. And so the inner peace process is the most profound way that I've discovered to go to the source of those issues in our tissues, and resolve them for ourselves. And it's just so powerful because you get to know yourself better. It's and in that process, you're discovering where there's weeds in your garden of subconscious, right? These weeds are the negative self beliefs, right? So in that example, my 4-year-old had created the story that I was unworthy of keeping loved ones in my life, right? So as a 4-year-old, when that happened to me, it was like I decided, like, oh, love has to equal pain, and I'm not worthy of keeping my lover here. And so that story would just keep perpetuating, because that belief was running in my subconscious, until I went back and pulled those weeds, planted some new seeds through this process. And so I would argue that as an evolving human being, one of the greatest skills you can have is the ability to identify these limiting beliefs that run in our subconscious, and the ability to change them and align with a greater truth. And so that's been my mission, and it's been a lot of fun.
Oh my God. Yeah, I can totally relate to everything you said, because the
Mm-hmm.
process that I'm using with my clients is very similar to your process. It's called the completion process. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Teal Swan. She's a
Mm-hmm.
spiritual guide as well. And I learned
Yep.
her method. It's called the completion process. And it's also coming back to the trauma. She just has a few more steps where you take the child out of the memory into the safe haven, and you
Yep.
deactivate the memory, you cleanse your adult self and your inner child also in the healing water, so that any leftover energies can be cleansed out. And of course, you meet all the needs,
Absolutely.
and you regain this consciousness, right? This inner child consciousness back to yourself, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's called the practice of putting yourself back together again, right? Because
Yep.
these pieces of us that were stuck in the trauma, now we can actually get them back, and we can gain this
Mm-hmm.
energy that was stuck there, and we can actually have more energy by doing these kind of processes. So I totally agree that this is one of the most crucial skills that one can have in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally try to inspire everyone around me to learn this. And this year I
Mm-hmm.
actually succeeded, because some of my friends finally were like, okay, Carola, please teach me. I want to know how to change my life,
Yeah.
because this is so powerful and people don't even know that. But once they experience it at least once, and the relief and the change that comes after going through such process, it's just
Mm-hmm.
amazing. It's just, when you really know this relief, it's not really a biggie anymore for you to go through this uncomfortable feeling, because you know the reward is going to be so great after you go through
Mm-hmm.
these shitty emotions, let's say, that you
Yep.
are even willing to do this. Like right now, I'm super amazed when I'm triggered. I'm like, okay, let's get into
Yeah.
this. What happened there? I'm curious, It's not like, oh my God, I got angry again, or oh my God, I'm sad, or whatever. And I can so relate to your story, because me and Ricky broke up like 3 or 4 months ago now, and I had the same thing. Like I had to go to my abandonment wound because my dad left when I was 2 years old, and if it wasn't for this happening, I would never reach the depths of my subconscious mind, because I didn't plan to be with anyone else but Ricky for my whole life. So if it wasn't this particular person leaving me, or us splitting up rather, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't go as deep into my feelings, right? It had to be so
Mm-hmm.
extreme so that I can go to my deepest wounds. So, as we said at the beginning, everything like that is a blessing. So, yeah, I'm just really, really pumped that we share the same message here, and we really can
Mm-hmm.
relate to each other, because it's literally just the same. And I can tell you guys, I'm a big advocate for these kind of processes as well. And I feel like, yeah, just the changes that you can see in your life are amazing in all areas of your life, because you're really reshaping the meaning of the situation in your subconscious mind, how it was wired in yourself, right? So when you reparent,
Yep.
especially when you reparent your inner child, it's like, instead of feeling lonely, unworthy, and undeserving, suddenly your inner adult says, hey, you are worthy and you're deserving and you can do anything. And the inner
Mm-hmm.
child is like, hey, okay, now I believe I'm awesome. And then it
Right.
changes everything in your life. So yeah, it's just so cool that you also got to experience it, and now you get to teach it to everyone. I'm super super glad, because I really believe that with these kind of processes and this kind of work, we can change the world. Literally, we can change
Yes.
the entire planet if we just keep doing it and teach more and more people. So that's amazing. And so I have a question to you, because you were talking before about coping mechanisms. So I want to ask you how to cope with coping mechanisms. Like, what do you do to not have coping mechanisms? Like, what are your methods of, you know, yeah, just stopping coping?
Yeah. I love it. How to cope with coping mechanisms.
Yes.
I love it. Yeah. So the I take my own medicine, this inner peace process. I'm now more inspired than ever with my little girl Sophia. She is just such a sweet soul, and every time, like you, when I get triggered, it's more of like, cool, now I get to put on my lens of curiosity and discover what wants to be resolved that's no longer in alignment with my highest self. And so I can pull out my journal and take it through this process step by step to resolve that and discover the lessons and blessings in it. And by doing that, I'm not just healing myself, I'm healing that whole abandonment wound, those generational wounds, the belief systems that went with that, the old programmed patterning, that negative beliefs, all that ends here when I let that go, so that it doesn't have to be carried on with Sophia, with my next child, and future generations. And so that inspires me more than ever to take a better look at, to take a deeper dive when I'm triggered, when I'm, you know, its first tool in my Batman utility belt is a 4-8 expansion breath. And it's simply a way to notice when your nervous system's getting hit. Like, it can be this super visceral experience that can be bring up fear. It can bring up such heavy or challenging emotions that the more we get emotional, like, our intelligence drops. And so it's easier to react in our old coping mechanisms. It's easier to just, well, I just got to go to the fridge and stuff it with something, or, I just got to go smoke a bowl or do whatever. Right. And so another, you know, even those that smoke a lot of weed or cigarettes as a coping mechanism. This is in Chinese medicine associated with the lungs, right? And the lungs are associated with grief. And so if we're not processing grief, then that is a common coping mechanism is smoking. And then we're not fully taking in life, breath, that life force energy. So one of the tools I teach and use often is just a 4-8 expansion breath. It's an inhalation for 4 seconds. Like a balloon, you're expanding in every direction instead of just anteriorly or vertically with your breath. And it slows everything down by exhaling longer than you're inhaling. And this allows you to slow. It's like finding the calm in the storm. And then from there, you can pick out what's important and setting your reticular activation system with intention to how is this happening for me? And for those that aren't familiar with the reticular activation system, this is a really cool bridge between science and spirituality. It's a phenomenon in our mind. It's our mind's way of processing all these millions of stimuli that are coming in every moment, to process it so that it's focused on refining it to what's actually important to us. And so this phenomenon a lot of people can relate to because it's happening all the time, whether we're conscious of it or not. And it's like you see that new blue, SUV Tesla. You're like, oh my gosh, those are so cool. Like, I want to have that and be the only guy on the road with that. And then next thing you know, as soon as you start liking it, you start seeing it everywhere. Like, wow, that guy's got one. There's it's in the magazine. Like, it just pops up, right? So it's like turning your radar onto that. And so when we're unaware of this, then it can take us in a downward spiral too. We wake up, we're like, oh man, this is a rough day. Like, I just woke up on the wrong side of the bed. When we declare that, even that thought process is setting our reticular activation to finding evidence of it being a rough day. And so, stub our toe, getting out of bed, we spill our coffee, we're ungrounded, someone steals your parking spot, these triggers come up, and it's all happening for us to realign. And so just being very intentional, intention can set that reticular activation system, that phenomenon, onto your advantage. And that allows for all the signs, synchronicities, serendipitous moments, and opportunities to fall into place to allow for whatever it is you desire to come in. So it's a really fun phenomenon. And, I take it with me to the closest place to hell. A lot of people would call the DMV the closest place to hell. And these government buildings or hospitals, you walk in and it's just so low vibration, right? Like, it's easy to succumb to that when you're not conscious of it. It's like you just become one of the zombies in there, and you like get in line, you get your number, and you sit there, and it's just like this, like, super low vibes. I set my intention before walking into that building. I want to experience fun, joy. I want to share some smiles for miles and some laughs, and so I'm opening that lens, and I go in to the DMV. I get my number, sit down, have a meditation, and next thing you know, I'm doing yoga moves in the DMV, and that sparks up some conversations. And a guy next to me, young guy, has a knee brace on. I said, "What happened, man? You kicking too much butt these days, or what?" And he laughs, and he's got he's like, "No, I tore my ACL, and it's been a long process." And I said, "Have you ever tried meditation for healing?" He said, "No." I said, "Yeah, I used a meditation to help me find answers to healing my back. I can share the same one with you, And so, boom, gave him a nugget. And then this starts all these other conversations. My number gets called. I go up there, and usually the the workers there are usually not the most happiest people. But I said, "I'm so excited to see you. Like, you have no idea how long I've been waiting for this." She's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." And I showed her my watch. I had a watch at the time that just said "now" on it. It didn't actually keep time. And she laughed. She's like, "Oh my gosh, my husband has, all these watch collections, but he doesn't have that one yet. Ladies, come see this." So before I know, it was like this ripple effect of people having a great time. It's like having a party in the closest place to hell and sharing laughs, and all because I set that intention going into it. And so, It's like going into hospitals. You can turn on your like inner Patch Adams and make sure you're bringing some love and light there and some enjoyment to these places that need it most.
Mm.
And that's kind of like the environmental, outside of us. And then we're doing the same thing through this inner peace process, is bringing love, support, and safety to the parts of us that need it most.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, there's an opportunity when you connect with those younger parts of you to ask them, do you want to stay here in this, or would you like to come with me in the safety of my heart and experience all these amazing things we've created and experiences from now? And as you take their hand through that, it's like this really exciting journey of rescuing these parts of us that just get
Yes,
lost, and where we
absolutely.
give away our power.
That's amazing. That's such a beautiful story that you shared from, and yeah, from the hospital or anywhere we go, we can be the light, right? It doesn't have to be low vibes. If we don't allow ourselves to get all these low vibes and we just decide, okay, I'm going to be a bulb of light in here. I'm going to just
Yeah.
shine stronger than anything here. Then we can really do that. And so this is so
Yes,
so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, because I feel like it's going to
absolutely.
inspire more and more people to smile to strangers, to set a beautiful intention, to actually like, yeah, shine the light even more and more, because this is what our
Hmm.
earth needs right now. This is what the whole collective consciousness, especially in the times of pandemic, this is what
Yeah.
all we all need. So yeah, this is beautiful. And I have one question that I really want to ask. I want to make sure that I have time to ask it, because I know
Hmm.
that you are a founder of Empowered Men's Group. So I know that you're
Hmm.
working with men. So I'm super curious to ask you this question: what every woman should know about men?
What's something that every woman should know about men?
Yes.
Uh, we're very simple. We're very simple creatures. Yeah, it's sometimes things get very complicated, and I love the dance between the masculine and the feminine. And so, men, as we get in touch with those parts in us, the masculine and feminine, then it's so much easier in relationships. I call it relation shape, because we get to shape, how we relate with one another based on our level of intimacy, and then being able to share that more in our relationships. So, intimacy to me is into me, you see. And so by doing this inner work, we discover more about ourselves, and then we have so much more to share about the inner workings of who we are and what we're experiencing with our partner, with our friends, with those we care about. And it allows for the advantage to that, is it allows for deeper connection. And so for women, just allowing a safe space for men to feel is deep medicine.
Mm-hmm.
It's deep medicine, like allowing us to feel safe enough to cry in your arms. It's like that is for a man, that's like letting down our armor. It's letting down our guard, and it's like it should be taken as a great compliment to the queens and the women out there that that can hold that kind of space, because it's not easy as a man. Those inner blocks that we develop, those beliefs, sometimes they die hard. And so we want to go deep into this. My When I was 10, I found out that my mom had committed suicide. And I remember being at her funeral, sitting next to my brother, and 10 years old, I had acquired this belief that I need to hold back my tears, that I shouldn't even cry at my own mom's funeral, because crying as a man is a sign of weakness, and we need to be strong. And so this was over years that I had to unravel and allow myself to finally find my tears. And it's an example of these feelings that we try to resist throughout our life. There's no escaping them. It's like, as souls, we come here in this human experience to feel the full spectrum. So that which we resist, it's just packing it in our issues as tissues is like, I call it 3D debris. It's like weight that we carry until it blows up, or until the volcano erupts, or until we finally give ourselves space to sit and be with it. And so when you're resisting, it's persisting. When you're feeling, you're healing. And so to have, if you really care about your partner, your man, like noticing, a huge tool is when that comes out at one another, whether it's anger, resentment, those feelings of outlash that start arguments and relationships. Can you see past that and not take it so personally, and see with the lens of their inner child that's hurt and that needs some love, support, and safety? And then in that, you may respond instead of reacting in a different way, and be a little more loving and be able to hold some space for those crazy emotions as they come out. And so it's such a gift, it's something that comes with practice, and it's profound. And I've been blessed to have so many beautiful guides and partnerships and people in my life that have been able to hold that type of space to learn from. And now I have a beautiful relationship with my mom, and I was able to come to peace with that, and in some deep healing, even connect with her and understand that she told me that she was battling so much with her, addictions of alcohol and drugs, and that she was in such a low space that she didn't want to miss out on my brother's lives. She wanted to be of the most help. And so for her, that meant taking her own life so that she could always be with us in spirit.
Wow.
And that just,
That touches my
it,
heart so deeply. This is
yeah,
so beautiful. So beautiful. Really. And it only proves how our human mind is so limited and our human perspective is so limited. Because with our human mind, if we only look through our small self, not higher self, we would be like, oh my God, this is like a disaster. Someone died and someone committed suicide. But actually, from a higher perspective, this is what is the most aligned, and it's what's allowing for more growth and more expansion and more support even for you. And so it's such a beautiful story, beautiful message. Thank you so much for sharing. This is really, really amazing. And I'm sure that the listeners will enjoy it too, because it's just, touching my heart so, so deeply. So thank you. And I feel like what you said about like seeing through the anger, through whatever emotion is coming up, and see the inner child in someone, I feel like that's such a powerful lens to have and a perspective to have. And I feel like it comes also with practicing something like inner peace process or completion process or any type of inner child work, really. It comes over time that you actually, it's like your habit that you see this inner child in the other person. So I feel like the more you do this process, the more you actually have this automatic lens of not taking things personally, because oh, it's not actually my partner shouting at me, it's actually the inner child within my partner that is now triggered
right,
because of something. Maybe someone took their toy away when they were 3 years old, and that's why now they are shouting,
right.
not because I did something, right? So it's so powerful when you go deeper and deeper and you practice it on a daily or weekly basis, these processes, because then you can really like zoom out and you can be like, okay, this is the trigger, this is emotion, energy in motion. It has nothing to do with me, really. It has everything to do with this person, and how I react has something to do with me and not with this person, even, right? Because we always
Right.
attract situations and people that how we resonate, what we have inside. So it's actually about us and taking responsibility for our actions and our emotions, how we feel. So yeah, it's really It's really cool what you just shared.
Yeah.
And on the topic of manhood as well, I know that men have this inner drive to provide, to achieve, to set goals and reach them, right? And so the question for a conscious man like you is, how do you balance between achieving your goals and taking action and doing the things that you need to do, and also going with the flow and letting the universe provide everything for you? And how do you discern when to take action and when to go with the flow, and how do you find this perfect balance and harmony in both of these approaches?
Hmm. It's a great question. And it's not even a level of mastery that I've reached yet. It's a dance. And it's, the tools are really helpful, but also acceptance in whatever season of life that we're in. There's a time when I'm really inspired to just, use my laser focus method and create, amazing things are coming through that I can help other people with. And that's like, I go into my creation station and dedicate so much time and structure to that. And then there's times when, my little girl is growing so fast and I don't want to miss out on any of those moments. And so it's like, I get to put all that aside and be fully present with her, so that the reward of that is like seeing this little soul growing in human form and getting to enjoy these experiences together. It's like creating epic memories in vivid HD that I get to cherish with her for lifetimes. And that's the advantage of being fully present. And that's the greatest gift that we can give ourselves and our loved ones, is just that level of presence. And so when we can get good at putting that level of presence into whatever it is we're doing in that moment, then everything begins to shift, and it's like floating down the river that, of life, instead of swimming upstream. And when we get caught swimming upstream, it's giving us tons of clues. It's like, well, am I just doing because I'm trying to use what's worked in the past to get me to where I want to go? But there's hitting lots of roadblocks. And so that's a good time to create some space and understand, there's some inner work, some inner blocks, some limiting beliefs that are showing up, right? And so it's a beautiful dance. It's always changing. I wouldn't say I'm a master at it yet, but I am able to access the parts of me that are needed most, and I'm able to recognize those parts and notice when old programs or old versions of me are trying to drive the car, and then having that inner dialogue with them to allow them to take the back seat so that my higher self can drive again. And that is a deep level of awareness that's really helpful. And so I'm not to say that, I don't, I fall out of alignment, and now I just listen to the feathers, and I make those micro shifts instead of like waiting for the bricks or the painful Mack trucks. I don't need to go to those extremes anymore. I can access that flow so much easier through the experience and enjoy the dance. It's we're here for it all, and so I feel like the more we connect with ourselves, so much more we have to share. And we each carry these unique gifts, talents, and passions and skills that we bring, this medicine that each of us brings that's unique to each one of us, to the planet. And when we try not to share that, like when we let the ego's fear of, well, it's not perfect yet, or I just want to keep playing small because I'm familiar with that, or I'm not good enough, it won't be received well. Like those fears, that is what will keep a lot of people holding on to their gifts and those talents and those passions. And it gets really uncomfortable, and rightfully so, because you're eventually we'll be on our deathbed. And do you want to be one of those people that's like, man, I had to take all these ideas to the grave because I didn't
Mm.
create them? I was too busy on Instagram. I was too busy consuming information, or, you know, um, sitting and doing nothing, when that actually is my greatest fear that supersedes all these smaller egoic ones of like, it's not perfect enough. They're going to judge you. Don't share that. That's too crazy or outlandish, right? Like those don't even stand up to the fire of my highest fear, which is dying with deathbed regrets of
Mm.
not getting to share everything that's on my heart in this lifetime, not getting to share my step into my full purpose, and share all the gifts that I'm here to share, to help make this world a better place when I leave it. And so that is a healthy fear that like lights a good fire under me, and like it's like, hey, let's get busy. And that actually helped me. I discovered that by finally sitting with anxiety, and finally inviting anxiety in for tea instead of all the avoiding techniques and strategies that I used for so many years. Finally was like, well, let's just sit with this. Oh, anxiety is energy. Okay. Energy is information. It's here to share something with me. So here I was, this super uncomfortable feeling that I finally sat with it, and it passed. And when it did, it revealed this like deep truths, a greater understanding of myself, and this understanding that, wow, it was here to like poke and prod me back into aligning with sharing my greatest gifts while I'm here. And if I'm not doing that and I'm steering from that, then I'll notice some anxiety, and now I don't fear it. I appreciate it. And I'm like, oh, thank you. It's a reminder. Like I get to channel this energy into what I want to create, this amazing list of ideas that I have. And that's what inspired me to create the laser focus method and help so many people gamify your get to do lists and create intrinsic rewards. And by doing that, you're taking steps in that path of long term fulfillment and creating more than consuming. And so this is an amazing way that a lot of people have like gotten rid of their addictions naturally. Because when you're choosing, I have this process, this method that helps me like really be more productive and create more than I'm consuming, then the magnetism to the things that you used to consume that you're addicted to disappears. And you're like,
Mm.
this feels better actually. Yeah, I get to create healthy celebrations after, my get to do list. I check this off, check that off, and now I have extra free time to enjoy myself and do more of the things that I love, which is when we're in our zone of genius and allows for more cool ideas to come through. And so it's been a lot of fun creating that live training course, and now it's up online and available to people. And it's low hanging fruit. It's and not I don't charge a ton for it, and it's amazing for helping people really share those gifts and their passions, and aligning with that. Because anytime we're have these our heart's desires to share these things, but we end up scrolling for another hour or two on Facebook or YouTube or blah blah blah, then yeah, you're going to experience more anxiety, and then depression, and then all the things, because it's all happening for you to steer you into the gifts that you came here to share. And
Mm.
so then it's like, wow, we go from here. It's like, what can I get out of this life? And then you take this little elevator ride 12 inches down to our heart, and we're like, wow, look at everything I have to give in this life. What a
Mhm.
difference it is from operating
Yeah.
here. When we combine those two, it's like the mind becomes a beautiful instrument of the heart. And that's what the laser focus method is for, because it helps you create more in less time, consume less, and then you're on the path to highest fulfillment because you're helping others. It's a lot of fun. And
That
if it's not
sounds
fun, it's not sustainable. So let's make it fun.
Yes, it is. And that sounds really amazing. And it really brings us back to this force achieving versus flow. Because if you are only attached with your mind, like, oh, I have to achieve this to make money, I have to do this in order to do that. If it's all coming from the mind, it's going to be pushed, it's going to be forceful. And if it's coming from the heart, as you said, then like,
Yeah.
oh, this is how I want to serve the world. This is what I want to feel when I'm serving others. Or this is how I want the life to improve, right, of me and others. And then when you combine, of course, the mind is very important because it can structure things, right, and help us go to the direction that we want to go to. But if we don't combine it with the heart, it's going to be pushy. If we combine it with the heart,
Right.
it can be the wholeness of the experience, and we can achieve the goals based on our soul and our heart rather than
Right.
only on our mind and what the society tells us we need to do or we need to achieve. So just circled back beautifully to this conclusion that if you combine
Mhm.
the feeling with the thinking, the right and left hemisphere, the inner child
Mhm.
and the adult self, if you combine it all and bring the wholeness to your being, then everything can flow for you and it can be all easy and very flowy. And so I would
Yes.
absolutely love to know more about the laser focus method, but unfortunately we're going to have to send people over to your Instagram or to your website, whichever you prefer to share,
Sure.
because our time is up. So please tell our listeners where they can find you and your beautiful methods.
Yes. The website is getting upgraded right now. It's charlesclay.coach. Super simple. And you can even access the laser focus method there right now and begin with that. And then also, Instagram is easy way to connect. It's charlesclay.coach. And shoot me a DM if any of this resonates, if this touched you in any way, and if there's anything you want to dive deeper on, because I love connecting with our tribe and seeing how I can support people. And so I offer, as space is available, I offer 15-minute consultation support calls for people that are want to dive deeper into this work. And it's really fun because it's just holding space so that they can share what's going on in their life, where you're feeling stuck, and we can point you in the right direction, whether it's with me or some of our other resources. And so um, that's probably what I would like to leave people with is, if just remember that you don't have to do this alone. If you're feeling stuck, there are masters of getting unstuck. Like, you and I have resources here that are to connect those puzzle pieces to help support others through it. So the more challenging way and the old way of doing things, the slow evolution, is trying to do it by yourself. Have the courage to reach out and ask for help and support when you need it, and you'll be amazed with what happens.
Thank you for these beautiful words and for being on the podcast. It was really a beautiful conversation, and I have so many more questions to you,
Mhm.
but unfortunately, we
Sure.
don't have time. But maybe we're gonna have a chance to talk again. But for now, I'm super, super grateful to you. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, for sharing your energy and your experience. And I'm sure all the listeners loved these conversations as much as I did. So thank you so much again. And sending you so, so, so much love.
Thank you. It's truly an honor and a pleasure, and I look forward to doing it again.
Thank you so much for being with us today. It was such a pleasure to talk to Charles, and you already know where to find him. But if you'd like to also find me, I am The Connection Catalyst on Instagram, or you can go to my website www.connection-catalyst.com. And it's been just so good to chat to Charles. So stay tuned and sending you so, so much love and light and beautiful energy.